Hey guys, it's Vanguard, back in a Card Fight Vanguard deck profile, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. This time we are covering DZ Set 2 Keter Sanctuary Liael Amorta. So, Amorta Liael, or Liael Amorta, the actual name, is the 7th hidden divine skill deck that there was, the faded one that none of us knew existed, that has a very interesting effect that kind of middle fingers Blagdemire, but, you know, it's a thing. I'm kind of disappointed that they had 3 shots with Angel, the demo deck Raziel and Liael, and they absolutely did not do anything with the damage zone fuckery outside of Raziel's half skill that screws with the damage zone. So I am disappointed in Liael, but her effect is good enough, and her support cards are actually really nice, and despite what people say about the deck having a soul problem, I have not ran into that at all, and when we look at the deck, we're going to question how we got there. But, yeah, so let's get into the profile how we got, because honestly, this deck is actually really fun to play, a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, and I definitely cannot wait to show it off. First up, we have our energy generator, so it's our standard ride deck crest. You may only have 1 ride deck crest in your ride deck. Auto ride deck, when you would ride, put this card into your crest zone. If you win second, energy charge 3. Continues may have to 10 energies, and auto begin your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy blast 7, draw a card. All around pretty solid. You know, every turn you're getting a free 3 energy, and this is really helpful for your skills that require energy, so it's always constant refill. And not to mention the fact that you can energy blast 7 if you have excess amounts of energy to help increase your hand, which is important because this is aggro Keter, and you know, typically aggro Keter kind of has problems getting a lot of hand cards, or at least a lot of guarding power to hand, so having to be able to increase their hand cards is valuable, especially when this deck heavily relies on having rear guards. Any rear guard works, so even if worse comes to worse and you draw a trigger, you can still call it and you can still work with it, so nice ride deck crest. Then we have our starter and player of the Font of Ballastina. Grade 0 boost, 5k shows, k base, auto opponent for second draw a card, standard starter, nothing too special about free draw if you go second. You can really use any starter in this deck, none of the ride line really requires this, but I choose to go for it because again it is the canonical starter of the ride line, and also it's just cute. Look at him, or her, they, them, whatever, because like the little pendant right here, and then this reminds me of like Stardust Trumpeter, you know, the original starter for Royals, which I don't know why it just reminds me of that, but it does. So I honestly think Ballastina is cute, and it's definitely worth running in the ride deck as one, but again, it can be any starter you want. Then we have our triggers. We run our over trigger first at Light Dragon, Deity of Honors, Amorta at 1 copy. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over trigger, 1 over trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose 1 of your units. It gets plus 1 for the turn. And if revealed it during your jet check, activate its additional effect, which you get until end of turn. You also perform drive checks for the rear guards your battles attacks. Wait, you also perform drive checks for the rear guards for your rear guard battles. Okay, anyways, so pretty much all around pretty solid. It helps increase the hand cards for your rear guards attack. And in this deck, the way it's meant to be played, this particular version, you get a lot of rear guard attacks. So being able to get more drive checks is all around pretty solid, especially when one of your rear guards might be a grade 3. So you're getting 2 more drive checks on top of maybe 3. And if you pull this on your first drive check on your divine skill turn and you are going for the rear guard multi-attack, you might get somewhere in the range of, you already get 3 drive checks guaranteed from the divine skill. So let's just lowball it and say you get about 7 drive checks, 6 to 7 drive checks lowballing, which all around is pretty solid for Amorta, getting more drive checks. You can run Walnut for a lot more consistent multi-attack, or Asphoria for recycling, but I do personally, and honestly Asphoria is probably better because you can recycle your PGs, but I do personally like Amorta a little bit better, just because of the Nation Over trigger, but also because Walnut isn't really needed in this version of the deck since you recycle enough, or not recycle enough, since you, multi-attack enough as is in Asphoria, well, you recycle enough as is, so yeah, one of our Amorta. Then we have our normal triggers, 3 copies of Protection Magic Proby, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw kings, card, circle opponents, Vanguards are grade 3 or greater, he'll get plus 5 in shield, so you know 10k shield is really nice to have. It's also draw tricks, helps increase the hand, and again, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes the hand problem can come into fruition, so being able to get more hand cards is great, and also being a 10k shield is also very helpful in defending, so we like to have 3 probies. Then we have 8 crit, because why the hell not? You're a restanding Vanguard deck with at least 4 rear guard attacks almost every turn, so yeah, you kind of want to run 8 crits for the pressure. So 4 of Chivma, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. You're going to make this any crit you want. The reason why I make it Chivma is because, well, Liael is used by the sister of Akina, Hikari, and Akina's canonical critical trigger is Chivlama, and to my knowledge, we have not gotten any new triggers released in either the first booster set or DC set 2, so might as well make the 2 siblings use the same triggers, so 4 Chivlama, and by default 4 Blade Feather Dragon, because grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear them out, boost to put soul, choose one of your units, it gives 2k for the turn. Okay, listen, I don't have a soul problem in this deck. By some miracle of God, I don't. But if you have a soul problem in this deck, as I keep seeing people complain about it, just use Blade Feather. It's like, considering the way my deck is built, you would think I have a soul problem, but I don't. So If you run into a soul problem with this version, just use a single blade feather. You'll probably be fine because you're probably off by 1 soul, and you get enough souls. I have not needed to use this yet. That's just me flexing, but is what it is. Free 2k. Doesn't really make a difference unless you have more than one of them on board, but free 2k is free 2k nonetheless, and again, 8 crits for pressure. Again, this can be whatever you want, but siblings, same triggers. Then we have 4 copies of Bringer of Distant Sounds Aranas, grades of boost, 15k shield, 5k power, standard heal, that's about it. You really run any heal you want, like Chivla, consistent heal with Akina, might as well run this. You can run a heal, you can run the counter heals, but I prefer the consistent 15k shield of vanilla heals compared to the fluctuating 10-25k shields of counter heals, but again, run whatever heal you want. It technically makes a difference, technically doesn't, depending on your situation. Then we move on to our grade 1s, 4 copies of Inoculate Angel, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Is this a different? Oh, it is just the same size. Auto rearguard, one of your Vanguards, placed by riding from a grade 3, soul boss 1, retire this unit, counter charge 1, choose one of your Vanguards, some and pop for that turn. Okay, here's my thing. A lot of people say you have soul problems, and one specific comment I will kind of half call out mentions the fact that, in Hikari's confirmed deck, she runs both Painkiller and Inoculate, both grade 1s costing Soul Blast and retire themselves. For Inoculate, technically you're not Soul Blasting because the most of the time you're going to use that is going to be on your Divine Skill turn when you Superior Ride from drop, meaning you're just replacing the Soul that you, got back, technically speaking, from the Superior Ride. Not to mention the fact that she countercharges, so you can use more CB, and I'm definitely going to say this now, this deck has more of a CB problem than it has of a Soul Blast problem, so being able to, get the CB back a lot and get for more multi-attack, and also give the Vanguard more numbers, which seems to be the struggling point, because the rear guards do good in numbers, the Vanguard not so much, so being able to fix like 3 different problems at once is all around pretty solid. Inoculate, and not to mention the fact, again, she opens up the board for more multi-attacks consistently, so if you have to call her to front row, you can. She's just a nice grade 1. I like to have her in the deck. She's good. 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Magic of Stimulant Euphoria, who I think is the reason why everyone's having soul problems, because at least from all the comments I read, people use her skill to bot deck stuff, which my argument comes the same as it does for the Luhan grade 1, where or like the Luhan grade 1 that is almost the exact same thing. You do not need to bot deck unless you have to. And in this deck, I question how you guys are bot decking and what you guys are bot decking, because I have not used this skill yet, like at all, to bot deck anything, because everything either ends up in bind or I just send them back to bottom via Liael's skill. And there are plenty of different targets in this deck to the point where you don't really need to cycle stuff back unless you are losing because your opponent is outstalling you. And at that point, you're probably losing anyways. You don't really need to send things back. Anyways, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continues rear guard during the battle that it boosted. If you have a grade 3 guard Vanguard Leon's card name, it's a free plus 5k. So 13k booster all around is pretty nice. And then auto rear guard, when it boosts a grade 3 guard Vanguard Leon's card name specifically, it'll get another plus 2k for that battle, so total 15k booster. And then Soul Blast 1, choose up to 1 card with the same card name as any of your units from your drop zone, put it to bottom, choose one of your units, and it gets plus 5 power for that turn. Cool. It does add more power, so it means your 5 attack pokes, at least some of them are going to hit the Vanguard more often, and it does put units back into deck, which you do need to superior call targets, but again, this deck recycles enough as is, and you have more than enough targets to superior call without having to recycle, to the point where the only reason you'd have to recycle is you get incredibly unlucky. And what I mean by incredibly unlucky is all of your targets either hit the damage zone or hit the hand, and the ones that hit the hand are the ones that can't do anything on rear guard. Or not, but to be more exact, the ones that you only superior call if the other 2 are not available. So Euphoria is that's not how you say her name, but she's not a good, she is a good grade 1. She's a 13k to 15k booster. She's nice for matches where you might need to recycle a lot, but again, so far not need to use that skill at all. She has been a 15k booster at the best, and that is literally it. Like, do not waste your soul on her skill unless you actively have to. This deck has more resources that it needs to use, so don't waste the skill on the soul when you can go to Inoculate and or plan A over here, aka Caribre. That explains why this deck is a 5 attack deck. Anyways, 4 of her, she's still a good card, especially if you do need to use recycle, but don't unless you have to. Then 4 copies of Gragon. If you can't tell, we run 2 counter charges because that's how much the CB problem exists in this deck. Believe it or not, though, I rarely use Gragon because he just never shows up until it's too late. And by too late, I mean my opponent's either dead or I'm either dead, but at that point, the counter charge didn't really make the difference. And there's good on boost 5k shield, AK base, continues rear guard. If your unit, doesn't matter if it was this unit or something else, was placed by the ability of Vanguard with the Divine Skill this turn, not placed by the Divine Skill, but just placed in general, and the Vanguard has Divine Skill, This unit gets auto rear guard at the end of the battle that it boosted, retire to counter charge 1, and it gets plus 5 in power. So all around pretty solid. You know, it's a 13k swinger and or booster, which is nice to have. And not to mention that if it boosted, it can retire itself for free, unlike Inoculate, and get you a counter charge. All around pretty solid. It's definitely a nice 4 because it helps max out the CB problem that spamming Caribre gives you. So yeah, 4 of Graga. I feel like after showing Caribre, all of, like the problems that that I mentioned before, people are now currently seeing, and you all are still probably wondering about the soul problem since Caribre himself also costs soul. We'll get to that. 4 of Gragon. Actually, we did get to that because you don't use Euphoria unless you have to. Either way, free counter charge, 13k base or swinger is nice to have 4 of. Limit for copies are PG and Bringer of Guardian Castellan, so grade 1 boost, 5-0 souls, K base, can change Sentinel. You have to only 4 Sentinels in deck. On put on a guard circle, choose one mutes. It cannot be hit until battle. If your hand has no more cards in it, choose a card from your hand, discard a standard PG. Nothing too special about it. Basically, that means if this is only one of the cards in your hand, we place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard, which is great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. In this deck, the higher you push your opponent, the better, but you can afford not to push them until later if you can't. So, you know, spam Grogon if you want, spam Euphoria. That's the other thing she's been used for. She's been discard fodder, she's been early game rush fodder, she's been 13k to 15k booster fodder. Like, she does everything. It's just that her skill isn't that great, but like her herself is good as a card, at least for an aggro player like me. And then, you know, Inoculate, like pretty much early game rush your opponent with these 3 grade 1s, and then if you can't, if you can, go for it. And then when your opponent counterattacks you, PG, don't discard anything, you're good. And worst case scenario, if you do have to PG with it, well, you have her over here, so you know, plan B is always an option. Either way, Castellan is a good PG to have. You can run Aegis Mire or Paladin Zero Dragon, they have the exact same effects, but I choose Castellan because the camo closer to the time of Leo's release, so 4 of. Then we have our last grade 1 in the deck, 1 of in the rad deck, none in the main deck, of Player of the Lovely Harp Adorphus. So grade 1 boost, 5k short, 8k base. Auto when she's rolled upon by Player of the Beautiful Court Elgenia. Soul Boss 1, draw 2 cards to 1 normal meter from your hand, discard it. And if you do not discard normal meter, choose 2 cards from your hand, discard them. The other reason I hear people talking about a Soul Boss problem is because, you know, to use that skill, which is really good, it helps increase your hand. It makes you only discard 1, at most 2. You know, it kind of adds a soul problem because you do want to use that skill a lot, especially because you want to be able to recycle more units for her skill. I'm gonna tell you this right now, regardless if you use that skill or not, you're going to have more than enough normal units to consistently pull off her effect. So the only reason you do use that is to draw 2 cards, and again, I've used that skill every game. Still no soul problem. If you cannot tell, do not use her unless you have to, because I think that's the only difference between me and other players, because I'm not using her because I have not needed to. So take that as you will. 1 of in the right deck, none in the main deck. She has no rear guard skills, but free 2 hand cards, ditches a hand card or ditches 2 hand cards and gives you fodder for her. But you don't need to ditch 2 hand cards because I guarantee you will have more than enough. On average, I have hit double for more than her skill, and her skill just requires 3, so on double I'm at least getting 6 consistently. So take that as you will. 1 of Adorphus in the ride deck. On to grade 2s. 4 copies of Night Rider and Flash Caribre. I'm not going to bullshit this. He's here. Well, the second I saw what Liael does, I knew exactly what I wanted to put in this deck. Grade 2. Intercept. 5k shield. 10k base. Auto. When placed on rear guard circle. Counter boss 1, soul boss 1. With the top 3, choose a card from among them. Reveal it. Call it to rear guard circle. It's a grade 2 or less. Put it to hand if it doesn't. Shuffle your deck. Okay. You will never in your life use this skill. You will never in your life use this half of the skill. If you do, you are specifically seeing only triggers and this, and you're adding it to hand, or you're specifically seeing only triggers and this, and you're adding this to hand, or you're seeing triggers, this, and this, and you're adding this to hand regardless. Pretty much 9 times out of 10, you are either superior calling or you're adding a PG to hand. Either way, though, Caribre is a very nice card to have because it gets you more rear guards, it can get you possible PGs. The more important part to note is it can be placed from anywhere, and not to mention the fact it can be proc during battle phase. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yes, this eats up CB, but when you are swinging at your opponent's grade 2 and you're getting 5 attacks consistently to the point where the only thing that shuts you down is the defensive, yeah, defensives are sometimes common, but if you put your opponent to high enough damage early, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, then they have to guard more. And granted, they're probably going to guard the smaller ones, which are 5k pokes, but as we've learned from any multi-attack deck, 5k pokes add up if there are enough of them, especially if you're getting rid of either a lot of guarding power because they don't want to get rid of their important units that actually can guard enough for those 5k pokes, or you're getting rid of those important units because they want to save that guarding power for later. Either way, Caribre is a very solid grade 2. As multi-attack on the Persona Ride / Divine skill turn, this thing is death on legs, and if your opponent survives it, they are severely crippled. Caribre is just a very good grade 2 to have, not to mention the fact it can build the board in the early game, so there's that. All around, good card, 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of Divine Sister Biscotti, so our way of keeping up the hand consistently, who thankfully eats into energy, and she's the only card that does that, so yay us. Grade 2 SF 5 Kishio, 10k base, auto and put on guard circle from hand, or discard from the hand while riding from the ride deck. Counter blast 1 or energy blast 3. You will always energy blast with this skill. There is no reason not to. If you use CB, you will run into more of a CB problem than you already do. And again, this deck doesn't technically run into a CB problem. It does, depending on what your definition of a problem is. This would make it a problem, guaranteed, and that's coming from the guy that doesn't see 5 CB face down as a problem. But either way, energy blasting 3 to draw a card, so pretty solid because it's the only card in the deck that uses energy outside of the energy generator. And then always placed on rear guard for Persona this turn. Again, energy blast 1 or energy blast 3. Again, only energy blast 3. Look at top 3 cards, get to 1 from them, put to top, and put the rest on bottom. If you do not call this during the battle phase, you may call it instead of putting it to top instead. So all around pretty solid. Possible deck stack regardless if you place it during battle phase or not, sorry, or you get to call it to rear guard if you didn't. Acts as a nice target for Liael Amorta. I think that at this point there's like there are 4 different targets at the very least. There's Salvar, there's Biscotti, there's Idris over here, and then obviously there's Caribre. These 2 are the top choices. If you Persona Road, this is next option, and this is always last unless like the situation calls for it, because 23k beater compared to deck stack / more numbers / more attacks, kind of 50-50. And then of course the rest of these follow as is. But either way though, Biscotti is a nice card. Acts as more guard fodder, which can help increase the hand in case you really do need more guarding cards. Acts as discard fodder, which is nice, and as a normal unit, which we can tech back via her skill. And not to mention the fact she can deck stack if we need to on Persona Ride turns, and or call rear guards if we're playing against a board new deck. Either way, Biscotti is a very solid grade 2, and I like to have her out of 4 in this deck. Then we have 4 copies of Sword Saint of Iteran Idris, so grade 2 and step 5 Kishio, 10k base, contains rear guard during your turn. If your bind zone has the same card name if your bind zone has the same as the card with the same card name as this unit, it gets plus 10,000 power. So 20k base, pretty solid. Sadly, the only way to bind currently is via Liael's skill, so you are only going to be able to pull that off after you call it. But, you know, first grade 3 turn, where maybe you're not trying to rush your opponent down with Creeper, because again, you typically want to say this for the Persona Ride / Divine skill turn. You at least have a bind target in Idris, who will then have more numbers to where if your opponent doesn't kill on their turn, you have a 20k swinger, possible 30k swinger if you are Persona Riding, going into a turn of at least 5 attacks. So take that as you will. In fact, let's just count this out real quickly, how many attacks you actually do get. Persona Ride, let's assume you get the Persona Ride as a Divine skill turn. 1, 2, 3, bind this, call another one, and then Divine skill, restand, 4, 5, 6, and then, you know, skill on attack, call this again, and then get another rear guard. You get 8 attacks. You get 8 attacks. Just saying. If you have all Creebays in deck. Yeah, and then the other skill of Lieutenant is auto bound from rear guard during your turn. If you have a grade 3 go to Vanguard Liael in his card name, Soul Boss 1, draw a card, choose one of your Vanguards, and it'll get plus 1000 power for the turn. You know, cool. It helps increase the hand, it helps add numbers. It is a possible reason that you could have a Soul Boss problem. A lot of people say the timing of Idris is essential. That is literally a comment word for word that I read on YouTube, and the reason why I disagree with that is because, you know, no soul problem. I wonder why. Either way, Idris is a good card. He helps increase the hand, he helps increase the numbers. He's just a nice thing to have for of Idris. He's just good. Then, of course, we have our last grade 2 in the deck. One of them in the red deck, none in the main deck. Player of the beautiful chord, Elgenia, aka the grade 2 who I had to double check the skill of so many times because I refused to believe her skill was actually that good. Grade 2 and step 5 Kishio, 10k base. Auto, when she's rode upon by a grade 3 card Liael in its card name. Choose any number of nominees from your drop zone, bot deck them all, and then if you choose 3 or more, you get to draw a card. So I want to let this be clear, because it says you choose 3 or more, not send 3 or more to bottom. You do have the Soul Blast from this, which is probably your starter. So inherently you have 1, and this guaranteedly gets you another. So that's 2, and you will most likely hit a third one either off Caribre or just random discarding like Biscotti. And again, consistently I've had at least 6. Actually, to be more exact, consistently I've always had at least 5. There was one time where I had 4, but then every other time it was either 5, 6, one time there was 7. So Elgenia is almost always getting me a draw. So all around she is, what am I saying almost? She always is getting me a draw. Either way though, pretty solid. She recycles a lot of the deck. You can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. Your opponent can board nuke you. They can do whatever. You bot deck all your stuff. You draw. And as long as you have at least one card with the same name as one of those things you sent back, you automatically have plays. Elgenia is one of the best Ride Line grade 2s I have ever seen in the most simplistic way possible. One of them in the red deck, none in the main deck. Onto our grade 3s. 3 of Salvar Dragon. Grade 3 turn Persona 13k base, continues rear guard during your turn. If your bind zone has a card with the same card name as any of your units, this unit has power. Okay, wait, I think this deck may be a little bit different on slides than it is in my on tabletop. If it is, this is a 3 of, and then this is a 4 of, but if it's not different, then these are the same. Either way, these are interchangeable, like I just said. Anyway, Salvar Dragon continues rear guard during turn. If you bind on any card with the same name as any of your units, it gets plus 10,000 power. So 23k base, if literally anything in your buying zone shares the same name as a unit, which Amorta almost guarantees. I don't know why I called her Amorta almost guarantees. So beat sticks. Salvar Dragon's pretty much here where you're going to beat stick it on first grade 3 turn, you're going to beat stick during second grade 3 turn. Typically, your board first grade 3 turn is either Idris, almost Idris guaranteed, and then maybe Salvar Dragon or Idris and Caribre. It really just depends, because you're probably Caribre to get more rear guards. And then Persona right turn, definitely Caribre plus Idris if possible. So all around, Salvar Dragon is good. It is nice numbers, it is good beat sticks, and it is a possible call target from Amorta, but when compared to these two, it's not as important of a call target, but still one nonetheless, so it's a nice 3 to 4 of, depending if you're running a good 3 or 4 or not. I should have checked that before I did this deck profile. Then we have Oscar in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck, a faded 1 of time, Liael equals Amorta. I know you don't pronounce the equals, I don't care. Grade 3 to Persona, 13k base, auto Vanguard, when she attacks on anything, card boss, when choose one of your rear guards, bind it, search after one card, the same card name as that unit, call it to rear guard, and shuffle your deck. So simple CB1, bind anything after attacking, and then superior call another thing. If you called Caribre, more attacks. If you called Idris, more numbers to your Vanguard, more numbers to Idris himself, and you get hand cards. If you called Spaghetti and Persona out this turn, deck stack. If you chose Salvar Dragon, you are definitely getting more numbers out of this. And, well, anything else is just a beat stick at that point. So, all around, pretty solid. And then auto, when she's put on guard circle, ditch a hand card and put 2 cards from your buys on the bottom deck in any order. Choose one of your units with Fatal 1 in their card name, and it cannot be hit on the battle. Okay, that skill is incredible, and I wish in the future that Amorta gets more binding cards, so, you know, Idris can be more consistent, Salvar can be more consistent, because currently only Amorta can bind. Except the issue with that is, Keter is the nation that can recycle the easiest, either back to hand or back to deck. And considering the amount of deck thinning this deck does, you're probably going to hit Amorta easily if you send it back. Meaning if they gave us more binding options, we essentially have an infinite PG. Either way though, cool. It resets our bind zone, so in case you need more Caribres back in deck, that did actually happen one time. Hence the reason why I never use her. I almost had to, but I didn't have to thanks to that skill. And then, you know, it does have to force the discard, but hey, it picks a faded 1, so it protects herself, and it gets around Blackdemire's skill, because Blackdemire just says it nullifies the Vanguard skill and the player's skill, and it nullifies PGs, while Amorta is a half PG, so there we go. And then Divine Skill, Auto Vanguard, about the attacked into anything. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, choose to carve the same card name as this unit from your drop zone, and you may ride it as stand, and if you rode that unit, gets drive -1 for the turn. So, cool. Superior ride, drive -1, and because her attack can activate again, or because she can attack again, she can then activate the on-attack effect. And if you have more counterblast, either because you inherently had it, or because you set up an Anunculate, or you set up a Gargon, then you can immediately use it to bind a Caribre that you called last time, call a second Caribre, get more attacks. You may think that doesn't happen often. Almost every game that has happened. So almost every game on Persona Ride turn / Divine Skill turn, I've gotten 8 attacks. Granted, some of those games have ended in me getting shut down by a damage trigger, but they've happened nonetheless. So all around, Amorta is pretty solid, you know, she has an attack skill that can get us more attacks. She is a free PG that Fs over every card that says your opponent cannot use Sentinels, because she is not a Sentinel, therefore she can just proc regardless. And then, you know, her Divine Skill is free, Superior Ride, that allows you to use this skill again for even more attacks. So just with 1 rear guard alone, plus herself, she automatically gets you 4 attacks on the Divine Skill turn. And if you Persona Road, yeah, 8 attacks is near game, if not game. So 3 of Amorta in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. She's a very nice card for pressure, very good card for defense, and a nice card to stay on for balance. And without further ado, that's it for this deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is actually very fun to play. I thought it was going to be a little bit boring, especially after I saw the original release of the Divine Skill, because I had a very different Divine Skill in mind when I saw her the first time, and I was like, oh my god, that would be so fun to both play as and play against, but that didn't happen. Instead, we got her current Divine Skill, which at first I was disappointed in, but again, after playing the deck and seeing the combos between Caribre and this, yeah, I'm not disappointed anymore. So all around, that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to Twitch. I'll see you all in this one. Don't forget to set up your Vanguards.